Okay, I'm going to be teaching how to make a weight map for my GPU cloth physics. This is an outfit that I am currently making, possibly, and we're going to do it to the shorts, which is also, I don't know, part of a dress. But to make a weight map, we need to build it off of the UV map. So we need to go down to UV editing, which I'm already there, and you will want to make a new UV map, and we're going to call it weight map. When you have that, let's go ahead and just go to this so we can see what we're doing a little bit better. It needs to be in edit mode, and I'm just going to reset my map. Let's see here. I've got to unpin everything. There, now let's try it. That's a lot better. Okay, so I'm assuming that the big piece there is my cape. I'm pretty certain it is. And then this here would be the belt. And this here is the shorts. What I normally do is I go ahead and make a new material. I'm going to call it just black. There. But since I already have more than one material, as you can see, I could have just assigned any of them, would have been fine. But on this one here, which is, I'm going to call this weight map as well. There we are. And this part here is the only part that we're actually going to be weight mapping, as the shorts won't be having any kind of physics, and neither will the belt. So, you're going to need this extension called UV squares, and I'm going to be using the UV packer. The UV packer isn't quite as needed in this area as the UV squares. It's definitely needed. It's a free one, and you could probably do it without it, but it'd be a whole lot harder. We're going to take, I guess since those are already on a whole different UV, that's not going to be a problem. All we really need to worry about is just this. So I'm going to grab these, and I'm going to just move them out of the way, because they're not going to matter on this one, but this one does. So we need to go down to the UV squares, and I can never remember which one. I don't know, I guess it's probably because they're all different according to different mesh, but you just kind of mess with them and figure out which one is going to give you the best outcome, which for me, I really like this one. We're going to use this one. And then the UV pack is just so I can get it where I need it. Here we are. I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit because I already know what I need to be doing. So the reason that I am making this UV specifically into squares and taking up the entire UV map is because here in a minute I'm going to be going to the shading, and I'm going to be using a see here, it's called a gradient, and that gradient is it takes up your entire map. It just goes from one side to the other, so we need to make our UV map match that, because we're going to take advantage of it and use it. And then we're going to rebake it to what would be our normal UV map in order to be able to use it. So that's why I made this all into squares and put it in there. Here in a minute you'll see how it'll look. We'll go down to shading, and the UV map, I don't have anything on it yet. I guess I should have went ahead and, yeah, let me go back a little bit. I need to assign the mesh to that material. In order to do that, I'm just assuming that everybody has knowledge on how to make your own clothes, but most people won't. So we're selecting faces, and then if you hold down Control, or I'm sorry, if you hold down Alt and then click, it'll grab a entire line. If you grab towards the middle, like this, it'll go up and down. If you grab towards the side, like this, it'll go this direction. And then I just hit select MM for more, select more, until I get all of it that's going to have physics on it. It's just a quick and easy way to do it without having to get real close and fight the whole thing. There. Now with this, let me take a close look. I got to make sure it's just right, because a lot of this is pretty important. Whenever you are making this, oh, looky there, I think some parts of that mesh was deleted and I didn't even realize it. Looks like I got a hole in my mesh. I think I gotta fix that sometime. But you don't, whenever you're making this material, you don't want to go all the way to the very end. You want to go just one back, because what it'll do, my scripts read the color according to the UV map. So whenever we have all this colored all the way to here, it's going to be reading this one. So this one will be moving. But if we don't have these selected up here, it'll, well, the way it is right now, all these up here will be moving, and it'll look pretty distorted and won't look very good. So we need to do select more, less, and then less. That's how we want it. We don't want it all the way covering up the whole physical part, but just next to it. This way it'll pick up these vertices as well, but it won't pick up these ones to manipulate. Now we can come over here and we'll just pull that over. Perfect. Then you click on the weight map and you click assign. And after we go to color, it's going to look a whole lot different. Let's just go over there and look. See that? It's all white. So with our shorts selected and our weight map selected, we will then need to hit Shift A, search, and we're going to do combine, color. We'll have it over here. And I actually turn the red all the way to 1. The reason I do this is the pinned vertices are going to be black. So I'm going to be adjusting my green and blue, and I don't want to accidentally make more vertices black. So to do that, I just turn my red all the way to 1, and that'll keep it from, no matter what, not being black where I don't want it to be. And then color to base color. You'll notice everything turn red. Now we're going to hit Shift A for search, and we're going to be using 2 different color ramps. Color ramp number 1, and Shift A, color ramp number 2. Now, one of these will be controlling the green, the other one is controlling the blue, and then we're going to be using the gradient texture. So search gradient, we leave it about right here. And now we go from color to FAC and color to FAC. And you will see mine is from red to white. We don't want that. So in order for us to fix that, well, actually first I need to shift search UV, and we need to make sure that we're using the correct UV, which is the weight map. Okay, so I was correct on this. This is how we want it to look so far. If, let's say, that it is wrong, then we need to come over here, and with it being selected the color, let me scoot this over so I can show you where that's at. It's this one right here. This is no color, this is color. And if it's gradient in the wrong direction, then you can just twist your entire UV however you need it to be. But it should be basically a red at top with a white at the bottom. Now let's go back to shading. We're going to work on this some more. Okay. Now I kind of come over here, use my cheat sheet that I have going on. We're going to rename the color ramps, that way we know which is which. So your green is going to be controlled, your mask controls your green, and your constraint controls your blue. So we're going to click on this one and rename it to mass, and then this one here to constraint, which this constraint is your damping constraint. And down here it is, let's make sure, yeah, your constraint's the funny one. So your mass, which is blue, it remains unchanged, so you can just leave it. But then your constraint, now this one I do a certain way because of, let me show you, inside of the inspector we have the constraint weight adjusters. If what I found was that the constraint is pretty sensitive. It does a, I'm trying to think of the word here, a multiplication rather than just adding. So the more you adjust it, it's actually, if you adjust it slightly at the very first, it really makes big changes, but then after it gets about halfway, it's not as big of a change anymore, as you notice. So if I were to leave this how it is, then that would be fine, but you're going to find yourself ending up coming way over here to about here, and you won't have any room to play, to mess with it and fine-tune it. The reason is that this spot at 0.97 is whenever it's not damping it as much, and it looks pretty realistic around this area. So instead of making it like this, to where you don't have any room to play with, I adjust it with my color. I come over here, you click on this little black underneath the arrow, and you can adjust that color with this one. And what I do is I start off with the red and I highlight all the way to blue. That way I can adjust them all at once. I hit 0.970 and hit enter. And that is the setting that I like to keep it at to make it look about the most realistic and the best. Now if you want to, let's say you want to, that's my setting, I should say. Really, you could probably just change this on to 0.9, I don't know, 0.90 even, or maybe even 9.3. 3 would be a little bit better. There we go. If you keep it right there, then you'll still have a good chunk of playroom, but then you'll have even more this direction that you can play with. You'd be, that's not the right thing. This one was. There we are. I mean, you'd be about right here-ish, and you could actually go back a little bit and make it even more stiff. And then coming this way is less stiff, more flimsy. Let me adjust that. I turn this all the way down to nothing where you can't see it. There we go. Okay, so back to the generating. Now that we have this in here, that is your blue color, and your green, which is the mass, you leave it the same. You can adjust it to how I done the constraint, where it's more customized to the way you like it. You can do that. But over here, I'm going to hit Shift A, search image, texture, and I'm going to do a new one. I usually just make these into 1K 1024, and I leave the alpha unchecked. Now, this method I use Gimp, which is a texture program. You can also use Photoshop, but I am not a Photoshop user, so I can't really teach you how to use it. But I will teach you how to use Gimp. And I prefer to do it this way and use my alpha in Gimp rather than in here. In here, it's a whole lot more complicated, and I just never have much luck with it. So I'm going to click on OK. So this is Untitled 001. Let's rename that actually. Let's just type it to new weight map. There we go. This way I can't mistake it for anything else. Now I'm going to click on this. I have my mesh selected. I have the UV. We need to go down to the original one, which I really don't have an original one yet. So we'll just click on new. This is a unfinished outfit, but I'm going to show you what it'll look like. So I'm going to click on new. I'm doing this one. And now I'm going to click on bake, which you need to have on cycles, and you can do supported or experimental. I just click on supported because I'm not going into any kind of a high detail with this. And I leave this on 10, 10. Then I go down to bake, and I go down to diffuse. And I turn off indirect and direct. I just use the color only. I don't want to bake any lights into it. And I do clear image. I turn this all the way up just to be safe, which it already is. And then I click on bake. It'll usually just take a second or two. And you'll see it change over here. There we are. Now what this did was it baked what you visually see. Messed up all my other textures. That's alright, I'll fix them. But it bakes what you visually see into your viewport and bakes it onto the texture, which is right here. Now this is the official color map. So now I'm going to click on that's called a hamburger. Go to image. Then we'll click on save as, and I'm going to put it on, actually that's the folder I made for these textures. So I'm going to call it new weight map. I'm going to hit save as image. Actually, let me make sure I did that right. I didn't check one thing. Save as RBG or RGB. You can actually save as an RGBA with an alpha, even though there is no alpha to it. But whenever you're editing it in Gimp, this will add that alpha channel so we can play with it and fix it how we want. So now we're going to save over it. Now that we got this done, there is the next part, which we go back to UV editing. And you see we still have everything highlighted that we wanted, I'm pretty sure. Now we're going to hit select more. Select more. And what that does is it selects 2 more vertices beyond where we already were. And now we're going to hit assign to the weight map. There we go. See, now it kind of looks a lot different, even over here in the weight map. I'm going to show you why we did this. We're going to go down to shading, and we're actually just going to remove this. And we're going to just color, well, I guess we can just leave it white. It won't matter. The reason we're doing this is we're making the alpha part. And I'll show you how that's going to work. We're going to bake. There we are. An image. Add. Then I come over here and I usually just underscore A. That way I know which is which. Okay. Now we're going to go to that folder, which I doubt I have open. There we go. Now they're both open. Oh, and it saved an alpha channel. I didn't expect that. Since it did that, I'm going to just make a new layer. You can do that by clicking on this. And I'm going to put it underneath, and I'm going to just paint. I didn't have paint on bucket fill. There we go. And then I'm going to hit Image, Merge Visible Layers. There. Now I did that, and you're going to figure out why here soon. So we're going to click on this, hit Control-C for copy. Then we come to this one. We're going to hit Control-V, except we're going to click on this. See how it says Floating Selection? It's because it's not actually applied to this texture yet. We don't want to apply it. We're going to just click on that. This way it makes it as a second layer. Okay, now we're putting our main one on top, but we're selecting the layer copy on this one. And we're going to be using this one here, which is a select by color. And I use my radius all the way down to 0. Threshold, you can, I don't know, just whatever. Just don't make it all the way down. I'll leave it somewhere up in the middle. And we're going to select what would be somewhere into the black area. We're going to select about right here. There you go, you see? That's what we want it to look like. These are all the spots that are colored white on the other side. See that? It colors the white. I guess we could have just done that and selected it this way. In fact, let's do that. That way you can visualize it. So here we are. I hid the top one. We're at the bottom layer. We're selecting the color tool, and we're just selecting the black. All the black out of this. And then we're going to hit invert, which I guess we could have just as easily selected the white. Okay, so we're going to select the white out of this. There we go. But now what we do is we turn our first layer back on and we select it. And then we can hit our eraser. And what I like to do is I put it down to 20%-ish. There we go. And see, I got a little tiny select. I don't want to sit here and erase all the spots like that. So I'm going to turn this size just all the way up to a stupid number and just click once. There we go. And then we could hit the select box and just select somewhere out here. That way we're unselecting it. Now what that did was it made an alpha on this map. So you can see a little bit of alpha in here. Well, you can definitely see the alpha in the colored spots. The alpha channel is what is going to be making the optimized mesh part of this. The optimized mesh is going to be the area that is going to have the simulation. And what you're doing with the alpha channel is you're telling the mesh what part is going to be simulating. This way, these are the only vertices and the only part of the mesh that's going to be getting communication between the CPU and the GPU. That way we're not transferring all these hundreds or even just a couple, it doesn't matter. All the vertices that we're not using doesn't need to be calculated. So there's no reason to keep on sending it the same vertices back and forth when they never change. So we leave all those out. What we're telling it is which ones are going to be changing with the alpha channel. Now that we got that out of the way, we're going to delete that other layer. I'm going to turn it back on. That way we can't see anything. We're going to use image, merge visible layers, merge. And then you actually, this right here is your final weight map. It is done. Whenever you put it into Unity, you will need to, let me click on my image and I'll show you. You need to make sure that whenever you have it selected, it needs to be read right. This way you can actually read what color is at what vertice. This is a whole different outfit, by the way. But that is your weight map.